graduated, elevated. Now it's my time to shine, yeah, let's go. Graduated, elevated. Now it's my time to shine, yeah, let's go. Major moves, power moves.
Welcome to PhD Hard Talk. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Adekunle Olorunrinu, for your time. Could you please introduce yourself, your research, the university that you attended, and then we can crack on.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm Dr. Sherif Adekunle, and I just finished my PhD in economics from Afe Babalola University, Nigeria.
Excellent. So in terms of your research then, so I've received your abstract and I've done some digging on the internet, as we always do, just to understand what your research is about and if there is a gap, and as you know, that's what we look for in regards to research. So what literally pushed you to conduct this research? Can you just touch on what it is and what pushed you to start this research?
Okay, so yeah, I did my master's also in Afe Babalola University, and I worked on something a little bit similar, but not too similar. But it had to do with, macroeconomics and exchange rates.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started my PhD, my supervisor would also co-supervise me in my master's. He gave us this term paper, and then my own term paper was to work on monetary integration in ECOWAS. So that is what birthed that research. So, after going online and doing research and finding out that, oh, wow, there's like a very huge gap when it comes to, monetary integration in Africa. And I just felt, oh, this would be nice if I, do it as my PhD research. And that's what started the journey.
Excellent. So I've done some digging into ECOWAS, and there's 15 countries. However, a few have since been kicked out since then. And I think Morocco did try to apply as well to be a part of the group. So when I'm looking at these countries, and I know that the aim is in regards to trade and peacekeeping. In your opinion, based on your research, like you said, you've looked at the GDPR and where we are in terms of current situ. What's your assessment based on your findings in regards to peacekeeping and also the growth in terms of GDPR, be it trade, transport, comms, as they've stipulated what their aims are?
So when we talk about the ECOWAS, it's divided into two. So we have like the YMO, and then we have like the WAMs. The YMO are like the French-speaking countries, and then the WAMs are like the West African Monetary Zone, the English-speaking countries. And then in my research, you'd see that the French-speaking countries have been able to do fairly well for themselves, and also because their money is pegged with the franc. But for the West African countries, they've not been able to really, get their house together. And so that is still like a little bit problem, especially when we are talking about trade. And right now with the whole, economic meltdown that we are facing in the global, world. So it's not been really easy. Even like this monetary integration, it's something they've been talking about since the 90s. And then this is 2022 and it has not been achieved yet. And that is because before you can have monetary integration, there are other things that you must definitely like do first, which when it comes to Africa, especially West Africa, we are still lacking way behind from it. And like you said, when you talk about peace, even in Nigeria where I am, there's so much insecurity. And that is like a really, really, stumbling block to achieving that monetary integration. So we are far behind, but in a way, we're on the right track. You just really have to be interested in doing these things, because when I was doing my research, one of the things I looked at was the euros and how it was able to, help them. And really, if we are able to achieve this monetary integration, then it takes us as West Africans to the next level, and I just hope that, these governments of different countries are like really, really serious about achieving this, because it's more than 20 years and then we've not really done much.
Yeah, and I guess that, you know, in regards to questions, that's my concern, to say, okay, it's been, you know, such a long journey of vision, purpose, and drive, and you've gone into this research, like you said, you compared it to the euro, but we'll stick to the global south, because there are a lot of global south little groups that have been formed over the years, as we all know. I guess my question is, when I'm looking at, you know, the West African countries, like you said, you've got the French speaking, we've got the, you know, the West African countries. I'm looking at Nigeria and Sierra Leone. I don't know if I've said that right, but they are a powerhouse in regards to resources. So my question then is, if we've got such a, you know, a mission, what are the key challenges that you found when you're analysing these countries? Because I've looked at the population and I've looked at the land, you know, and I've looked at what can be done potentially. So what were the key challenges that you found that are stopping these countries from moving forward in regards to essentially building their own euro and having that power?
Yeah, I think for me the first challenge would be the political will. Because I honestly believe that to move any nation, you know, in the right path, then you have to have the right government. In Nigeria, we have multiple party system, but then we've had like two major parties, and most of the time there's no continuity. So if this party had started and then they are interested, and then another party comes in and then, you know, they also have like their own interest and then they stop it. So I feel like that's like one of the major challenges that we are faced with, because when you talk about these two countries, especially Nigeria, we are blessed with like human resources, natural resources, and we don't have like any concrete excuse not to be able to achieve, you know, this dream that we've always wanted to. But then it's just the major challenge is just the political will from the government. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the question is, you know, like we've got the United Nations. I'll use that as an example, as a blueprint. When it comes to individual politics, they don't really partake in that way. So I would like to think that ECOWAS is not really directly linked to you know, politics per se. So how do we then guarantee that ECOWAS is outside of the political remit of each individual country, and they've got people who are just there pushing towards the vision of ECOWAS? From your research, did you find anything?
Yeah, so I feel like it's like having like the right minds in like these organizations, because really I believe, because I also do like a bit of politics. I feel like you can't really take politics out of economics and economics out of politics. So yeah, in a way, the ECOWAS is made up of 15 countries, and then most of these countries, there are, you know, different local politics being carried out in it. But then if you get like the right talents, because like one of the things I would always say is that in Africa, especially West Africa, where I'm from, we do some of these researches and they just end like, I feel like, for example, now in Germany, when you want to do like a research, like this kind of research that I've done, after you're done with it, you know, you're going to present it to your government, you're going to present it to ECOWAS, you're going to tell them like the challenges that you feel like they've been facing. Because basically what I wanted to do was to see if really the benefits actually outweighs the costs. Because why are we spending so much money over these years and then maybe we are not even going to get any benefits from it? After seeing that, okay, the benefits do actually outweigh the cost. So what is now stopping us from like moving forward? But unfortunately, some of these researches, most times you end up just probably teaching your students and it's not really passed across to like to the right people because of that gap that we have between, you know, youths like and talents and then the government. So I feel like that's like one of the ways to also, you know, develop or achieve our aim. If like the government can support more projects like this and more researches like this, because I feel like that's where we are right now, whereby if the government is invested in researches like this and then they support researches like this, it makes more sense, because that way they know that, oh, there's this gap, and if we do this, if we do that, we'll be able to achieve our aim. Yeah.
So when it comes to policymakers then, if you had an opportunity to say something to them based on your recommendations and your findings from your research, what would you say to them now?
Yes, so I feel like, or from my research, I believe that there are some macroeconomic indicators that most of these countries have to look at, and one of the really serious factor is inflation. Because if we can lower our inflation rates, it would make us take us a step forward to achieving our goals. We are also talking about our exchange rates. Currently, the exchange rate is about 800 to $1 in the black market, and this is really, really affecting how we are able to achieve what this monetary integration. Then also trading amongst ourselves, because some of these countries, we have different resources that we are blessed with, and if we can trade more amongst ourselves without some of these barriers. And another major factor, like you mentioned earlier, is insecurity. That has to also you have to work on security challenges that we are facing, because if you can't travel to like a neighboring country to export your goods or import your goods, it's a really big issue here.
Okay, so what you're proposing is free movement, essentially, from one country to another if you're in the group.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
Thank you very much. So in terms of your research then, just a simple question, how does it benefit the wider community that, when you're looking at it, how does it help?
Yeah, because it brings down, if you have a situation whereby there is one money, and then we don't really have like these exchange rate issues again, and then you can easily buy stuff from or buy goods from another country. You can move from one country to another. It helps the economy of each country, and when it helps the economy of each country, it helps individuals too to live a better life. So yeah, basically.
Okay, and in terms of your methodology then, what was the approach that you took for your thesis and why?
Yes, so I did a secondary research. I honestly wanted to do like a primary and secondary research, but then I started my PhD in 2018, late 2018, around December. And then in 2019, I used it to do coursework. So in 2020, coronavirus happened when I started my research. So I couldn't really move, because I wanted to move to some countries, not all West African countries, but to Ghana, move to Benin, because really it's always nice when you can go to these countries and really feel what's happening there than just gathering data, online secondary data. But that's what I used primarily to do my research. I used secondary data, and then I was able to do, because my supervisor also assisted me, because he is also a professor in international economics, and so it was easy for him to just assist me when we're doing my data analysis to do a publication, to find a gap, and then you're trying to fill up the gap. Is another thing for the government to actually read these things and see that some people have taken their time to do a research on this matter and have seen a gap, and they've told you how to fill that gap. Like I said, so that's the problem we are having, a problem within researchers, and then the government making use of this research. So sometimes they are just oh, you're just making this, especially if you're a lecturer. It's one of the things that you need for promotion. So some people are just making these researches for promotional sakes and not really to impact. Because in Nigeria now, the number of professors of economics that we have, it's alarming. But then see our economy. So we've not been able to, move from that school or that knowledge and then impact in the real world. So there's still that large gap here.
No, thank you very much. And I guess in terms of another question is, how do you cope with a difficult supervisor during your PhD? What advice do you have for that person?
Okay, so I would say I was blessed in a way, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are now doing their PhD in private universities, because you have like that close knit relationship with your supervisor. It's more like your brother, your friend. You guys communicate. You can call him at any time. You can call you at any time. But in the public universities where we have older professors, they can like be really, really, but then there's something that they'll tell you that PhD, like we would define PhD as, you know, the H, they'll say, okay, yes, the H is hard work, then the P is perseverance. If you want to have a PhD, you have to be able to persevere. And then the D, we call it dobale, but what dobale means is Yoruba is you would have to just, you will lie down, you will plead, you would be diplomatic. Yes, that is the word, diplomatic.
Yeah.
Because really, they would say that well, like my dad would always say something. You say when you want something, you have to act like a monkey to get it. So yeah, at the end of the day, these are the people that would judge that, oh, you've passed, and they'll give it to you, and then they'll not just hand it to you for free. So you have to try and be diplomatic with them, help them out when they want, do some of their researches for them. And at the end of the day, when you now have your PhD, you have your freedom. So yeah.
Okay, interesting. And in your own opinion, then, would you say that attaining or getting a PhD breaks the poverty life cycle? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. It does, but right now a lot of people are not seeing it, and it's because of the value that we place on education. Like I was saying it that about your contents, how many people put out contents like this, and then I don't know what you go through like back end trying to get brands to support. But I'm sure that it's always very hard as a creative myself to get brands to support anything that has to do with education, quote unquote. But you see other contents that we are having these days. So we've placed less value on education, and people now feel like education is a scam. But it's not. It's just that these new generations that we have that want to really make money so fast, I always believe in longevity. It's not how far, but like how well are you doing something. So if you definitely have a PhD, you know that you have like a source of income that is going to last you for life. But you're doing so there are other things that you can do. But yeah, like having a PhD definitely would place you, because it's like a pool. And you have a lot of people with BSc, you have a lot of people with MSc, but you're having a PhD, you've tried to take yourself higher from that pool, and then you can get better opportunities. It just depends on what you do, the PhD that you have. Yes.
Thank you. That was very insightful. And in terms of this question, then, it does say, my PhD supervisor advised his friend not to hire me as a postdoc. What should I do?
So, that's why I said, in not just in Nigeria, basically, excuse me, but we always have this thing whereby even in the university, politics is always mixed with education. And so, like I said, she just has to be really diplomatic, because if a supervisor has told his friend not to hire, he's not going to hire, even if she's qualified for that job. So it still boils down to how she's able to try and be diplomatic with her own supervisor first, because because she needs that recommendation. And sometimes there are some of those people that, okay, maybe they are just really hard head, and then you've tried all what you can do, and then they are not going to. I always feel like people cannot hold like your destiny at the end of the day. So they might just try and delay it, but then they cannot so you just have to always find a way to wriggle yourself out of that situation. Find somebody that you feel like that person, she should find somebody that she feels like that supervisor reverse, and make friends with that person. With time, I'm sure that supervisor, even if the supervisor is not willing, we don't have a choice. Because especially if the person is a Nigerian, because of the respect he owes for that person, his mentor. Just like, okay, let them just take her. So you find other ways to just, because if you want something, you just have to go for it and find other loopholes that you can also use. Yes, so she should try that.
Okay, I guess the key word is dobole, being diplomatic.
Yeah, you just have to
Essentially.
be.
So I guess, in terms of advice then to somebody who's thinking, I want to do a PhD and financially they're struggling, what advice do you have for them in terms of process? Because I get questions from colleagues, I'll call them colleagues, who are in Nigeria, want to go abroad, they're leaving the state universities that are there, and they're thinking about their proposals and also coming to the UK, for example, or going to the US. I think those are the trending countries. Or maybe they want to go to the European countries because the fees is cheaper. So based on your own experiences, what advice do you have for those individuals?
Yeah, people have used crowdfunding. Like for my own PhD, I got support from my parents, and then I also did try and fund some part of it myself. But then it's really hard on people. So most times, if you want to do crowdfunding, especially if it's coming from Nigerians that you are going abroad to study and then you want us to still, fund it for you. So yeah, so it's always really difficult. But then I feel like there are still really good scholarship opportunities. Some people just don't want to take that stress to, apply for these things. And then sometimes it's just belief. Really, you just have to believe that, okay, you can get these things and go for it. So I think one of the major things is to apply for as many scholarships as possible. People will just be you ask them, how many scholarships you apply for? They'll say 10. Then you apply for 1,000, really. And then yes, because you can't really just get tired. And then what would you really lose in applying for these things? The best that can come out of it is that you don't get it, but you don't know. At 1,000, you can definitely just get one. So yeah.
Okay, so
and then sorry to just add,
yeah.
It would be nice because I know that the government have tried over the years to sponsor and facilitate some of these scholarship opportunities. But with the way our economy is right now, I don't even think that's the government is not even so focused on education like that. ASU has been on strike for 8 months. The university just resumed. That's public universities. So imagine when even in the country, university students are out of school for 8 months. They are not even concerned about you that wants to travel out. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess the question that I was going to ask really, it relates to the universities in Nigeria. Like you said, we've got private and then we've got public. So in your opinion, you've studied in Nigeria. In your opinion, do you think it wise for them to also try and apply in Nigeria? And Ghana, they've got universities there, that's next door, isn't it? And you've got other countries that are neighboring, instead of going abroad in terms of the Western world or China, etc. What's your take on that?
Okay, so yeah, thank you for that question, because I also wanted to travel out. I also wanted to come to the UK or go to the US or Canada, but I could not afford it. The thing is that you might want to feel oh, the education you're getting here is inferior. But no, my dad will say something. He'll say that PhD is global. I'm having this discussion with you today because I have a PhD. Sure, you get, and if you feel like you're not grounded enough, the PhD that you're able to, acquire from this place would give you opportunities for you to now go to those other places. Today, I can get a research grant or go and do my postdoc in the UK, and they would pay me. I would not be seeking for scholarship opportunities, or I would not be, and now I'm applying to come out for a research, and they feel okay, we like your research, come, and they'll pay me. So try and get something here first if you can, and more opportunities, and then you can still read further. You can even still go and do another PhD or masters in the UK or US if you're you like reading that much. So yeah, but at least start something here. Don't always wait till even while you're applying for scholarships and you're looking for funds for some of these universities. I have friends that started and then the opportunity came and they left. So yeah, but at least because before 3-4 years, you spent it in Nigeria and then you've still not traveled, and you'd have used that time to get a PhD here already or a master's. Yeah.
That's really good advice. Thank you. I have just for you to explain for the audience at home. You said share you get. What does that mean?
You said,
You said share you get.
oh, like, do you understand?
Thank you.
I always forget I'm not, because I don't know, you look like Nigerian to me. So most times when I'm having conversations like with somebody that has, I feel like you have that vibe of a Nigerian. I didn't even ask like, where are you from? Are you, where? I wanted to ask that question, but I wanted it to be at the end of our conversation.
We'll get to that one at the end of our conversation. I guess the last question, and I think you've touched on it, which is, do you think PhD Hard Talk, in terms of this platform, is beneficial for, research students and also for universities as well? Or do you think, do you know what, Norma, it's not working, call it a day, jobs are good in?
No, it's actually quite beneficial because a lot of students are confused. We even have students that don't really want to do a PhD and they don't know how, they just dabbled into it. So it's like a form of focus group that if more people can key into it and support, and it can get to like a wider range of people and students, they would be able to see that, oh, okay, it's not as if, because a lot of people go through depression. I went through my own phase of, why doing PhD. It's not really always easy because you're like, there are other things that you can be doing that you'll be making more money, but then, you like education and you just want to, still. So it's a really good program and a really good content. So yeah, thumbs up.
Thank you. And I guess to tap into your hobbies or business, which is Nollywood, I believe you're in the film industry. So take us through that. And if people want to find you, where do they find you, etc.?
Okay, so yes, I own a production company with a friend of mine. We call it Kunirewa Films, and we've been able to make some short films. We are working on we're working on a feature-length film and then a series.
Mhm.
Then I also belong to like a collective, and we call ourselves Mad Collective. Mad means making a difference, basically, because
Oh,
that's what that's what and because really, really, with the way our industry is, you have to
yeah.
collaborate more because you need collaborations to be able to, do the stuff that you want to do, because really finance is like a huge problem. And you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, like Facebook, Konerewa Films.
Excellent. Share you get, you better find them on socials. That's the new word. But thank you so much for your time. Remember, hashtag project dissemination to the world, hashtag sustainable knowledge to the world. Thank you so much, Sherif, for your knowledge, your expertise, and also for sharing some kind words for those who are going through the turmoils of mental health or understanding, the value of a PhD in terms of the poverty life cycle. So it's been really, really insightful. And if you want to find out more, all the details are at the bottom of the link, and you can also find him on LinkedIn and also on socials. All the information is at the bottom. So thank you again for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.